Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to Black Knight Gaming. We're here today with a 2.5 skull battle in the Highlands working for the Arano restoration. We're bringing the same lances we had in the last episode. That's the SRM quick draw, the LRM quick draw, long range blackjack, and the Vindicator with the same pilots. And let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so here we are starting off with the quick draw SRM. And it looks like right now we only have one opposing lance to deal with. That means that at 2.5 skulls, it's probably some sort of mixed medium and heavy lance. I'd be rather surprised if we had a large number of lights. Alternatively, we could be looking at a lighter lance with some decently heavy reinforcements. So we're going to be moving up a little bit cautiously, having the two quick draws with their relatively heavy armor lead the way, and leaving our blackjack a little bit farther behind. The Vindicator, which is up-armored, although still more lightly armored than either of the quick draws, will be performing a bit of a flanking cavalry role during this fight. The idea being to use its high maneuverability and relatively heavy armament to ping either at the sides or rear of the opposing mechs. And we do see what looks like 3 vehicles and only 1 mech, which is always a bit of a disappointment. I don't know about you guys, but part of the reason that I play a game with gigantic Stompy Doom robots is to fight gigantic Stompy Doom robots, so seeing those vehicles is always a bit of a letdown. But we do have a second lance coming in on the right, and what I'm deciding right now is if we'd be better off charging this lance on the front or turning to face this side. And I think with how the forces are arrayed, it might be better to try to charge this first lance, see if we can use the quick draws potentially to step on our vehicle opponents before moving to the right, and that's reinforced by the presence of this Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt is a heavy mech with a decent armament and quite respectable armor, especially when we're not on one of the easier missions where their armor is mostly damaged. And adding on to that, we have a narc round that lands on that quick draw SRM, and what that means is that that quick draw from here on out will be slightly easier to hit. So we're going to be moving up the LRM quick draw, keeping at a range where we have high accuracy with that LRM 10, and taking aim at that Thunderbolt. So opening up with 4 medium lasers on the LRM 10, it does look like it has significant cover, which is reducing the amount of damage that we're doing, but we do successfully use that LRM quick draw to distract. Now, that vehicle is shooting some sort of inferno round, burning gel that added a lot of heat to the quick draw, which is not what we wanted to have happen at all. So we'll be moving out, and heat represents a relatively large challenge because if we can't fire, if we're overheated, we have to decide between taking damage to our own internals and dealing damage to the opponent. So the longer that we're out of action because of those inferno rounds, the less damage we can do and the more damage we will take. So we will be moving up, using the blackjack to try to bore right through that damaged left side of this inferno carrier, firing with the 3 medium lasers and the double AC2s. That is enough to handle that inferno carrier. We have 1 down with a heavy and 2 vehicles remaining, and we'll be moving up the Vindicator, I think, at a sprint, demonstrating its capabilities for acting as a bit of a cavalry role. We'll have excellent evasion, so even though we're moving it right up in front of that Thunderbolt, the intention of that Vindicator move is to pull their attention with something that has great chances to dodge, and getting it close enough that we can land a stomp on one of the vehicles. So we will be doing 55 times 2 damage times 2 because of the vehicle, as well as firing off that small laser. So our chances of destroying that vehicle, which we achieve, are quite high in theory, and it looks like high in practice. So we have left the Thunderbolt, which we should soon be able to flank, and that 1 mech, and our blackjack has been getting lucky here, dodging a couple long distance, looks like large lasers, and we previously had a PPC shot as well coming in. And what we might do now is move the blackjack up and use a precision strike to knock this Thunderbolt down to moving at round 2. Now, we do have the highest odds of hitting that center torso, but aiming for one of the legs and legging that mech would give us excellent salvage if we can, and you know, it's one of those things, why not, right? If we do manage to leg the mech, fine. And if we aim for the sensor torso just because we think we'll hit it anyway, sure, we'd core it out a little bit faster, but I don't think we're in enough trouble right now where that's necessary. So we will be moving up with the LRM quick draw just a little bit, keeping in a range where we have excellent hit chances with that LRM 10. And what I'm trying to do now is find sort of the sweet spot in range where we're able to fire the LRM 10, and, well, those Inferno rounds are dealing quite a number to us. We are going to have to only fire the 2 medium lasers. It doesn't look like we can get away with 2 and the LRM, or 3 medium lasers without overheating, so we are going to be firing only, well, yes, only the 2 medium lasers at that LRM carrier. Now, it's carrying 3 LRM 20s, so rather than focus on the Thunderbolt with our last remaining mech this round, which the Blackjack managing to dodge 2 PPCs, something is shooting 2 PPCs, that must be a heavy, so I wouldn't be surprised if their reinforcements were only the 2 mechs, not anything else as well. We will be moving up the SRM quick draw, getting 3 evasion pips, trying to keep it so that those mechs on the right don't quite have a rear angle. They might have some hit chance on our rear from our current facing, but there shouldn't be a complete rear fire arc, and we do open fire on that LRM carrier and take those LRM 60s off the board. So now we have just the Thunderbolt, which does manage to maneuver around our quick draw, swinging in melee and thankfully missing, although opening up with those MGs. And if that mech had managed to land in melee, what we would have been looking at is probably armor exposed, and the MG is acting as a sort of crit-seeking weapon, right? So if we had ammo bins, or if we had anything we want to protect, so if it had opened up our sensor torso in the rear, for example, those MGs would be looking for multiple crits on our engine. Now, we are able to take out the Thunderbolt in 1 alpha strike from the Vindicator, and this just demonstrates the power of maneuverability, right? So this is why a lot of people use heavily, well, not up-armed, I guess, but fire starters kitted out with large numbers of small lasers or things like that, because the firepower that you can get from the right position will really take out, it'll allow you to punch above your weight. So we do open fire with the Blackjack. Also, that Blackjack taking return fires has been all game, finally taking a little bit of damage from what looks like either SRMs fired at extreme range or LRMs, maybe an LRM 5. And we are able to open up the right torso on that Cicada. So we'll be taking the quick draw SRM 6 and moving up as close as we can to that Cicada, hoping to open fire with decent accuracy. We cannot take another precision strike without dropping below 50% resolve, but we can still do another alpha strike while leaving enough space on our heat bar for one more after this. So we do damage that Cicada a little bit more. We crit one of its PPCs, and that's important because I was wrong. Rather than having 2 heavier mechs, it looks like we do have a full lance dropping as reinforcements, and our quick draw with the SRMs is beginning to take a bit more punishment than I would like. That PPC landing on that right torso and doing some good damage. So we're moving up the quick draw, and it looks like now we have, I guess, outlasted the damage from those Inferno rounds. That heat damage lasting not 1 round but 2, making that Inferno carrier particularly nasty. We are opening fire with only 2 medium lasers and an LRM in an effort to still cool off a little bit, and that quick draw SRM taking even more fire, a large laser finding its mark along with several small lasers, and we will be retreating that mech. It only has 2 armor left on that right torso, and this mech is one of our most important for dealing consistent damage, so we will be moving within range for our medium lasers with the Blackjack and opening fire, hoping to take out either the torso or leg of this Cicada. Knocking on the ground would be great, taking off some of its armament would be great. We do crit the MG, but not enough to take that off the field entirely, and the quick draw, having that right torso exposed by what looks like an AC-5 round, will definitely be retreating at the next available opportunity, which looks like it will be not until after our opponent has moved. So the Vindicator, we could take a shot from afar, only opening up with that large laser, or we could sprint up a little bit closer and get into a better position for next round, which I think is what we will be doing. The Cicada getting a brutal melee in at our quick draw, and I am beginning to really get worried, especially with those MGs firing, the right arm being ripped right off that quick draw. This thing needs to hightail it out of there as soon as possible. We lose a medium laser, we're down an arm, we have a right torso exposed, and yeah, the answer is, I guess, to move this mech right now to make sure that we are left facing from the incoming fire, and to still try to open up a little bit on this cicada. We don't have great accuracy because of the sheer number of evasion pips coming in off this cicada, but it might be a good idea to precision strike for the accuracy bonus, and we don't really need to land all that much more damage on this mech before it is down for the count. We will be going for a leg, hoping to knock the cicada over, which we don't quite achieve. But now if we do get any amount of lucky scatter, we should be able to leg that mech and knock it over. And once the mech is knocked over, it loses all of its evasion. That cicada will be a sitting duck for the rest of our lance. And I think what we want to do, so only 5 left on that right leg. I think what we'll be doing is actually leaving this mech right where it is. Well, the problem with going after these lights is we have just awful chances to hit compared to if we were to fire at this Wolverine. And I'm a little bit worried about the amount of damage coming in from those PPCs. This mech over here firing dual PPCs, maybe a medium, maybe a heavy. I'm leaning toward it being a heavy actually at the moment, but you know, that's all a little bit stalling from the choice that lays before us right now. I think what we will be doing is opening fire with, well, I guess with 3 medium lasers in the LRM-10. The LRM-10 has an awful chance to hit, but it has a higher has a higher chance of hitting some of these damaged components, like the left torso, which only has 1 structure left, because those LRMs do scatter. So anything that hits, looks like we only land the 1. We are able to rip off that side torso and injure the pilot, but our Blackjack now, which is not one of our frontline mechs, it's not supposed to be taking this much fire, unfortunately getting focused on by the Wolverine, and our choices now, we can move the Vindicator, or we can fire it in at this cicada, or we can move the Blackjack and let the cicada's not moving. It's moving on initiative 2, so it won't be moving quite yet. And because of that, I think we will be retreating the Blackjack a little bit, getting a little bit more evasion, and, well, I think we're going to be taking a precision strike here at this cicada. But that is firing in at the rear, which has all of its armor, so we'll be saving that precision strike, just firing in normally at the Wolverine, building a little bit of heat, and landing a couple medium lasers, a couple of those AC2 shots. And our quick draw, because it is left facing now, taking damage on the still well-armored left side, which is relatively safe. I mean, we don't have all that much armor left, especially on that left torso. This mech will still be retreating even farther next round, but we do now have to fire on this cicada, and I think to draw a little bit of fire, we're going to leave the Vindicator stationary. This will give us no evasion pips. It'll allow our opponent to see a really relatively high hit chance, and the hope is that we can roll back around to our turn before we have any significant damage coming in on this Vindicator. We do have great hit chances, and we're going, well, the odds for hitting that CT are just abysmally low, so we'll be going in for that left leg, hoping to knock this mech down. Any extra damage does travel up to the center torso, and we land enough damage to destroy that mech, take it out of the fight. We still have 3 opponents remaining, including Wolverine, including something with dual PPCs that's just finding its mark again and again, more times than we can afford. And PPCs are more than just the damage, because PPCs also reduce the chance to hit for mechs that take that fire. So every time that PPC lands, it lowers the chance to hit for our Blackjack during the next round. And we will be opening up now with 4 medium lasers, each with a 90% chance to hit on this Wolverine. We're running a little bit hot, but considering the amount of fire they're laying down on us right now, we really don't have a choice. And all 4 of those medium lasers do find the CT of that Wolverine, which is arguably bad for us. I mean, we want to take this mech off the field as soon as possible, so don't get me wrong, it's nice to drill damage into that CT. The problem is that the CTs are generally more heavily armored than either the torsos or the arms, so drilling into that CT doesn't take any of its weaponry off of the field, and it has been firing into devastating effect with that large laser every turn. So we'll be opening up with 3 medium lasers, those 3 that are remaining, as well as the SRM-6 from our second quick draw, and it does look like we managed to expose the structure on that CT. Now, if we can manage any sort of precision strike or something like that, maybe from the Vindicator on our next turn, well, I guess this turn, we should be able to land some devastating fire on the CT of that Wolverine, potentially taking it out of the fight if we get enough clustering, and let's see what we can do. So 33% chance to hit the CT. Decent chance to hit, I guess, if we wanted to go for the left torso, which doesn't have that much armor left, but I think right now we'll just try to see if we can core this thing out in one go, and that is a lot of white numbers instead of red numbers, so we only land one medium laser on the CT, the rest kind of gets scattered around, doing a little bit of damage to the leg, and our right side on this blackjack has taken the most damage, so we'll be left facing. It does risk the left arm a little bit, and if we get a little bit closer, yep, that's better accuracy with those medium lasers, but we will be exposing our left-hand side of this Wolverine and taking a shot, hoping to core this thing out. We want to just take as many of these mechs off the field as possible, because we're reaching the point where the mission becomes a bit more costly than it's worth. Right? With this quick draw again taking more fire, opening up some sort of structure on the left side, looks like that left torso is exposed. We would lose the SRM 6 as well as at least one more, I think two more of our medium lasers if we lose that torso. So we will be moving...
Waiting on you, Commander.
Well, the quick draw in the back no longer has any evasion, so we will be moving the quick draw in the back. Man, it's tempting just to give as much of a leftward facing as possible, and opening up fire on the quick draw, sorry, on the Wolverine, my apologies, and we do destroy the CT, incapacitate that pilot, and now we've hopefully removed vision from those mechs. Wow, okay, the dual PBC ends up being a Marauder. The Marauder is a wonderful heavy mech. It's sort of iconic in the series in addition, so it would be nice if we could get that mech, but I'm not really sure that's something we should be concerned about at the moment, given the amount of damage we've taken. So there's a Marauder with 690 total armor, or we can go after the Shadowhawk, which is farther away, worse hit chances with everything except for the LRM. I think the answer right now is to open fire with 3 of the higher chance to hit medium lasers at that Marauder and try to take those PPCs off the board. Now if we have a little bit more resolve, which we do get this turn, we can start taking aim shots. And the goal of every aim shot at the moment, with only 2% or so chance to hit on the head, will be to go for the legs. Leg every mech that we can, hopefully get a little bit more salvage than blowing right through the CT like we did with that Wolverine. And we are going to take that precision strike. 18% chance to hit each of the legs is not wonderful. We would have higher chances to hit on the right torso, and that right torso is damaged. It might be worth considering going after that, taking the large laser, which it hasn't actually been firing, and the PPC and a medium all off the board. I think that is what we're going to do, just to try to save our lance a little bit more damage, with the understanding being, since we only have 2, I think, salvage from this mission, it's not like we would be able to salvage that Marauder in one go anyway. So we will be moving up to where we have a line of sight with the Blackjack. This is a little bit risky. One of those PPCs would deal internal damage upon landing a hit to either of our arms or our right torso, so hopefully it fires at something other than the Blackjack, but we will be opening up with dual AC2s and triple medium lasers. Those are some orange numbers, beginning to get some good damage in on this Marauder, and that right torso has been exposed. So we'll be moving up the LRM quick draw, inside of our effective range for the LRM, but all of the evasion has been stripped off of this Marauder entirely, and we have enough heat now to fire not our full armament, but certainly the 4 medium lasers, and we will take a precision strike just with the goal of really seeing if we can pound right through that right torso and save our lance some damage. Only landing 2 shots, I think needing 3, maybe 4 to drill through, would have been 4 to drill through that right torso. We do damage the arm as well, and the quick draw here with 2 exposed right torsos is going to be sprinting back into cover in these woods, completely disengaging from the fight, at least to the point where if it does fire in, it's going to be relatively ineffective fire. The Marauder deciding to close into melee, and I'm not too upset by that choice. Now, that 95 damage from melee does land right on our CT for the quick draw, but that's okay. I'd rather take that 95 damage, even though it is all concentrated, than dual PPC, dual medium laser, and a large, which would be, well, let's see, 140, 190 damage, so we half our damage, even though it is all now concentrated. And the Blackjack, well, I don't really want to hold still. So we'll be moving into these trees and opening fire on the Marauder, and we do have to turn off one of the medium lasers, so choosing one of the medium laser with the worst accuracy in order to not overheat. And I think from this angle we should be able to have relative confidence of dealing at least some damage to that right side, critting a PPC, destroying a heatsink. Now, weapons require 2 crits to take offline, not just the one, so that PPC is still active as it stands, and our quick draw now is beginning to take a lot of focus fire from the Marauder and the Shadowhawk. Although that was scattered a little bit, that's fine. So the Vindicator going to be moving up, getting an angle on both just to prevent any sort of rear arc from that Shadowhawk, and opening up on the right side of this Marauder, with the idea being to drill right through that right side. We do destroy the right arm, the right torso, and hopefully allowing us to drill through toward the CT, and that Marauder takes another swing, lands 95, and will be just severely damaging our quick draw LRM. It looks like all of that damage went to the right arm, which is actually fine, so we should be able to retreat this mech a little bit. And because that damage went to the right arm, we can left face, and, well, so we'll be moving up here instead of the other direction. It's a worse left face on that Marauder, but what it allows us to do is get a more right-facing shot onto the Marauder, so we have a better hit chance, and we will be going in for precision strike. We don't want to burn our own internals, but we can fire the 3 medium lasers and the LRMs without overheating, going in for that CT, and the goal being, although this would be wonderful salvage, we'll still get 1, and we take this Marauder out of the fight, leaving just the Shadowhawk, still capable of dealing a fair amount of damage to us before we're done, but we do have just the 1 mech left. So the Shadowhawk moves, fires into the Vindicator, which is the perfect target, this Vindicator having been so far unscathed until that particular round from the Shadowhawk, and we'll now be moving the Vindicator up, letting it cool down in the water here, allowing it to fire in everything and still actually be heat negative. So firing into the Shadowhawk, we land, looks like everything, which is wonderful. Actually get a lucky head hit as well. That Shadowhawk head down to 1 point of armor and 16 points of structure. Now it does have a 20% damage reduction from being in the trees, which is the only thing that really keeps it from being something we could potentially finish off with 1 lucky head strike. Now because the Blackjack is in the water, we are able to open up their full armament and again be heat negative, which was part of how that Marauder was getting dual PPC fire every single turn without really worrying about its heat buildup, and we'll do the same with the quick draw. Now the quick draw, still damaged on that right hand side and in the CT, we'll be keeping a somewhat leftward facing, and just opening up with its full armament on that Shadowhawk. A lot more misses there than I wanted to see, especially with relatively high chances to hit, and we destroyed the AC5 ammo, but without causing large amounts of damage to the rest of the mech. Now, Archangel here in the SRM quick draw, which has now been relatively heavily damaged, will just be, I guess, settling in behind that rock. It's, again, out of the fight, too far away to do anything, too far away and obstructed to be fired upon, and that Shadowhawk, an exposed left torso, shouldn't take all that much more fire to take out of this fight. So moving up with the Blackjack and opening up on a full alpha strike, almost running out of AC2 ammunition, which is rare because 1 ton of AC2 ammunition really does go a long way, and that left torso now down to 10 structure. So we will be moving the Vindicator over to try to get, well, okay, so we can't open up with a small laser regardless of which one of those choices we take. So we'll take the most leftward, I guess, position relative to that Vindicator so that we can call a shot on that left torso and hopefully rip that left torso clean off. We aren't able to land that, even though it should have been a 30% chance to hit. And, well, I guess it's the quick draw's turn. We're moving up again, still maintaining a leftward facing, and firing in with our full armament, loading up with those LRM-10s. And the goal with the LRM-10s, we only need 10 damage on this left torso to take it out. That's only a couple missiles. It's 1 medium laser. So hopefully we can get some favorable scattering, and I do see a lot of that damage going in for the left side, able to destroy both the left torso and the left arm before bracing Archangel again. And this will hopefully be the last round of combat. We've chewed through one side of the Shadowhawk, we've exposed the CT, and we've done enough precision strikes now that that Shadowhawk is moving a little bit farther back, allowing us to fire in with the Blackjack, with the Vindicator, both before it has a chance to take its turn. And with that, it will fall, and that'll be the mission. We'll be right back with the mission rewards screen.
Mission successful.
Okay, so here we are. We did take this for split, salvage, and cash, so we get a good 500,000, which is a nice addition to our relatively plump bank account at the moment. And we are able to salvage one Marauder part. We have one more part available, and it's tempting to go for that Thunderbolt. We do already have one piece of the Thunderbolt 5S, and let's just take a quick look through some good weapons with those LRM-20s, which we actually don't have any of right now. But I think the better choice would be to go in for that Thunderbolt piece and hopefully build ourselves up a couple more heavies a little bit quicker than we otherwise could have. We could have also gone for the Shadowhawk, but the Thunderbolt being a 65-ton heavy compared to the Shadowhawk's 55-ton medium, I think the second piece of a heavy is a better choice. We do pick up the Wolverine part, always nice. Wolverine is a solid mech. As well as some scattered, well, none of the LRM-20s, which is a bit disappointing, but we do get an LRM-15. So with our SRM Quick Draw taking a little bit of fire in that previous mission, we will be going into another two-skull battle in the Tundra with our curiously armed Centurion. Now the Centurion, really designed to excel in the Battle of Weldry, has been outfitted with an AC-2, as well as a medium laser and an LRM-15, along with a couple of jump jets, and that's not really the standard armament for the Centurion. It's a bit longer range than is really appropriate for the role that this Centurion is designed to play, but it does give us some more long-range fire, and most importantly, it's our only other mech out of the mech bay right now that allows us to field a full lance. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and drop right down. Okay, so here we are with our second mission of this video, and we're going in with only one of our heavy mechs and 3 mediums carrying the curiously armed Centurion into the fight. And as of right now, we only see one opposing lance, and given their positioning on our right, at least at the moment, we will be moving up the Quick Draw on that right-hand side. The Quick Draw, again, being our most heavily armored mech at the moment, and designed to take that sort of frontline punishment, saving our more lightly armored Blackjack for longer range and allowing our Vindicator and hopefully Centurion to do some sort of flanking maneuvers and really make use of the fact that those medium mechs do have a little bit faster movement range, a little bit farther, I guess, movement range. So since we are only close to sensor range, not into visual range, we will be reserving and allowing that one mech moving at tier 3, I guess 2 moving at 3, to go first. So we have an assassin coming up here on the right. We have some unknown mech coming up here on the left, and it does look like they're all. Looks like there's 2 lights and 2 mediums. I doubt they're good enough pilots to be moving faster than their weight class, I guess, would suggest. If you get particular skills, you can sometimes speed that up a little bit. And we will be firing. Wow. So this is the problem with the first round of combat, particularly against lighter and faster opponents, is that your chances to hit before you strip that evasion away are just abysmal. So we'll be opening up with the medium laser and the AC-2 on this assassin. It does have a decent armament, but I'm more concerned with just the sheer amount of evasion going on at the moment. So we take Decker, who does have sensor lock, and if he doesn't have a great arc of fire on this assassin, which, you know, the 50s and 45s really isn't that bad. So the reason I'm debating is because the sensor lock, as opposed to firing at a mech, takes 2 evasion pips away, not just 1. So it would make our next round of fire a little bit more impactful. But, well, yeah, so we'll be using sensor lock on that assassin, stripping away 2 of those evasion pips, bringing it back down to 2, and we still have 2 moves ourselves, so we can move up the Vindicator, keep in the cover of the trees, and open fire now with much better chances to hit on that assassin. 70% for our large and 2 of the mediums, as well as 65 for that medium lodged in our torso instead of our arm. And we do peg that assassin with 3 medium lasers. Scattering, of course, it does scatter all over the center torso and side torsos of that mech. And now our quick draw, getting in, well, I was going to say getting in nice and close, but if we stay a little bit farther back, well, Yeah, so if we stay a little bit farther back, it's not really performing its job as a damage taker, which is what our SRM quick draw is designed to do, but we do trade in roughly 40% accuracy on this LRM-10 for 75%, which gives us a much better chance of taking this assassin out of the fight really on our first turn. And that intercept system has been destroyed. With the assassin moving on initiative 3, we should be able to get 1 or 2 more shots on it before it has the chance to up those evasion pips again, and they do drop reinforcements. Okay, so with the reinforcements coming in, firing what looks like maybe an LRM-10 at our Vindicator, it's now become even more important that we're able to take this lance out as quickly as possible. One of the things about this game is that you're often outnumbered, and so it's critical to get some sort of defeat in detail plan against your opponent. And what that means is relatively simple. It just means being able to focus your strength on one point before your opponent can. In other words, even though they outnumber you on the entire map, you can still outnumber them locally. So right here we have all 4 of our mechs going in against one of theirs. 3 of them on the side, sure, and they're far enough away, well, far enough away where they're less of an issue to deal with for having high accuracy from close range, but still within the engagement period. But because we're able to focus all of those mechs on that one, we take it out, and now the local odds are 4 versus 3, with some long-range LRM fire coming in, dealing a little bit of damage, but nothing too severe from that second reinforcing lance. So now, because it's 4v3, we can push with, well, not safety, but I guess relative safety, and that spider, because it really didn't move this last turn, it's going to be the next focus for our lance. We could fire on the Locust, but with only 40% chances to hit and no sensor lock on Archangel himself, I think the better choice is to go after that spider. It has light enough armor that we still might be able to bore through before the next round starts, even though we only have 2 more mechs firing in. Now, that looks like maybe a Centurion? Well, Shadowhawk, I guess, coming up on a flanking position. That is quite deadly.
Yes, Commander.
But with our Blackjack moving up, having excellent hit chances on the spider, we should be able to take that mech out. We do expose some structure, destroy the left arm, and it doesn't take much on these lighter mechs to travel from what is an arm or a torso into that CT, which is our plan for the moment, is to bore right through that left side. While the LRM focused fire, well, the LRM scattered damage, I guess, is not focusing on any one mech. So moving up this quick draw should make that LRM carrier mech fire on the quick draw rather than the Centurion or our Vindicator, and we do... Well, so this is the end of the round, so I'm tempted to take a precision strike with the hope being that we're able to rise back up above 50% next time. 48% chance to hit that damaged and exposed left torso, and we are able to destroy that left torso, injure the pilot, move that spider down to initiative 3, which should let us get 1 more round of fire on it before it has a chance to move again. More LRMs coming in, that's just an LRM-5. Firing it in at the quick draw, that means that at least 2 of their mechs have LRMs. So another LRM-5 coming in, and I could have sworn that there was an LRM-10 coming in either on initiative 3 or 2, so they probably have 1 more mech that is able to open fire. And that Locust retreating isn't good, because if it's able to return back to where that supporting lance came in with those reinforcements here in the backside of the map, then that'll be 5v4, which is the opposite of the sort of defeat in detail that we just discussed as being one of the best ways to take these mechs out efficiently when you're outnumbered. So great evasion on the Locust. We'll be moving up the Blackjack and trying to fire in, see if we can finish off this spider. Only 32 structure left on its center torso. That's a lot of orange, and we are able to take that mech off the field. So now I guess our next target is going to be the Shadowhawk on the flank. Reason being that Locust has moved back far enough, I don't really want to fully engage that other lance, especially while they have all of that LRM fire coming in. So we'll be moving up the Centurion, and I guess the question now, well, even if we do a precision strike and move that back to initiative 2, there's no guarantee that it won't still move again. So I think the plan would be to go ahead and reserve, allow that Shadowhawk to move and fire, which is not great, We do take a fair amount of fire on the Centurion, but it does have 40% damage reduction from being both bulwarked and in cover, and now we have 3 movements with which to strip those 2 evasion pips, and then open fire with the more heavily armed quick draw. So the Centurion, with its relatively long-ranged armament, going to be moving back farther away before opening fire on that Shadowhawk. We miss a lot, only really landing with the LRM-15, some scattered damage, low damage missiles going all across the various armor pieces on that Shadowhawk. I was really hoping to land the AC-2, and this Centurion, useful as it was in the Battle of Weldry, will likely be seeing some sort of refit soon. The Vindicator, much more effective, hopefully, with its triple medium laser, large and small laser, opening up fire on the Shadowhawk, landing the large, landing the mediums, and landing the small, the full alpha strike really hitting that mech, and doing decent damage both to the CT and that right torso. So what I think we'll be doing now, this quick draw does have the LRM-10, and we want that to land. So we've been moving back into the trees, getting a nice hit chance with that LRM-10, and I think, again, because we're about to roll over the round and get more resolve from the next round starting, opening up a precision strike on that Shadowhawk. Now the question is, do we want to go for the CT and the quicker kill, or do we want to go for that right torso? And I think the answer is the right torso, because if we look here, there is some LRM ammunition held in that right torso. So if we knock that off, we should be able to get an ammo explosion, some damage, traveling into the CT of that mech, and that Shadowhawk is now moving at Initiative 2. So all 3 of our medium mechs do get a chance to go before that Shadowhawk can come around again, and this should hopefully let us take out that 3rd mech and move the odds when we do engage this 2nd Lance and the Locust down from 6v4 to 5v4, which should give us far better survivability. Now that Locust, well, that Locust is one, the pilot I'm sure is drunk, having gone and is farther away from safety, more over to this side, but it actually is a better idea than it looks like at first, simply because it now has a decent chance of getting some rear arc shots if it's able to move up and around this way. So we will be opening fire on the Shadowhawk with our Blackjack. Only 22 damage required to rip that right torso apart, so if even one of these is able to land there, we should be able to rip that Just as I say that, of course, we aren't able to take off that right torso, and that Shadowhawk is still alive, still with its full armament. We probably have exposed the right arm, or the CT by this point, and the left torso. Wow. So that's just the worst sort of scatter we could get. Still only 1 armor remaining on the CT, and I am still hoping to get us a nice ammunition explosion. So we'll be moving back away from this approaching 2nd Lance while we try to deal with this Shadowhawk first, opening fire with the Centurion and ripping off 1 arm and the right torso as well. That LRM ammunition explosion not really traveling to the CT like I had hoped, but only 1 structure remaining on that left torso. So the Vindicator will move up and around, get a right side shot, opening up with the full alpha strike on that Shadowhawk, and hopefully drilling right through the CT, taking that mech out of the fight. Now the large laser does land on that leg, and that is enough to save the Shadowhawk, which now will be opening up, only landing 1 SRM on our quick draw. But still, I had hoped that this quick draw would be able to turn, maybe fire on the Locust, or start moving up toward this other Lance. There is a Trebuchet, which has been firing that LRM-15, well, 2 LRM-15s, hopefully running out of ammunition relatively soon. Firing both of those LRM-15s on our Lance. Now we aren't able to move far enough to get good ammunition, good accuracy with the LRM-10, but we can open up with the 4 medium lasers, and you know what, we still have 9 rounds of fire with this LRM-10. Well, so not firing is heat neutral, firing adds a little bit more heat, so we will save that for where we care more about the Alpha Strike, and hopefully that is enough to take out that Shadowhawk. So CT destroyed, pilot incapacitated. Now we just have the Locust and that reinforcing lance to deal with. And given the Locust positioning, our 2 options are to, 1, basically turn around, come back into these trees and corner that Locust, or to really rotate away from it to the left, prevent those rear angle shots from a light mech that can deal surprising amounts of punishment if given the opportunity. as you can see right there, if all of that lands on the rear armor several turns in a row, that could be devastating. And I think that Locust just answered our question. So only one evasion pip. We will be moving back, getting as much fire as we can. Oh, excellent hit chances with the Blackjack. We do expose our rear a little bit to that Trebuchet, which is less than ideal. But we have enough resolve. I'm going to take an aim shot at that Locust and just try to core it out with 1 or 2 alpha strikes. We do land a bunch, and that is enough to core that mech all in one go. So now instead of an 8v4, it's a 4v4. We do have some light damage, which of course their reinforcing lance doesn't, and right as I say that, they land just a withering volley of fire down on our Vindicator, and we will hopefully be returning that fire sooner rather than later. So they have nothing else moving on Initiative 3, 1 mech moving on Initiative 2, probably a heavy, which is a little bit terrifying at this point. And we will be moving up the Centurion. It does have better armor than the Vindicator, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is an Archer. Quad medium laser, double SRM4, double LRM15, and I think some of those missiles might be out of ammunition. So our choices right now, this Trebuchet only having 450 armor, the Archer having 780 all total, and the Locust being the most lightly armored but having our worst hit chances as well as an obstructed, which I think does decrease missile damage. We have a bit of a conundrum, so I think what we'll be doing is taking a precision strike on the Trebuchet, slowing its initiative down to 2 and having wonderful accuracy, just trying to core this thing out as quickly as possible. It is in cover, which is less than ideal, but it doesn't have bulwark, which means we only have a 20% damage reduction, rounding 4s down to 3. And we do land a large number of hits on that CT. So the Vindicator, taking some fire on its left torso, will be moving around and right facing. There's no real way of doing that and getting the sort of angle of fire that I want. Well, I guess this will do. So only 1 evasion pip, and we move out of the forest unless... So we're on extreme range for those medium lasers. If we moved up a little bit closer, we have much better accuracy, but we almost guarantee that the Vindicator is the target of our enemy's fire for this next round. We will take that risk just to try to finish off the Trebuchet a little bit faster, and we'll open fire. The small laser not having the range, but the large laser, it looks like smacking that CT, and the Archer opens fire on the Vindicator, another withering volley, structure exposed, and right arm destroyed, which is exactly what I was hoping to avoid, but what we did risk, moving that Vindicator up instead of back, and the Archer adding insult to injury by tagging our Centurion as well, stripping 1 evasion pip, but giving itself lots of heat. Because of that amount of heat, we shouldn't expect a full alpha strike coming in again, but now we have to, we have no choice but to move the quick draw up, try to dissuade those mechs from firing in at the Vindicator, and now we've gone in enough on the Trebuchet where we have to finish the job. So we'll be going in with the LRM-10, happy now that we didn't use that heat earlier, and it is tempting to use a precision strike to try to get better chances to hit on that CT. Let's see what the odds are. Only 33%. I think that's going to be fine. We're going to fire in just regular. It does look like we land 2 medium lasers, a couple LRMs as well, and that CT cannot be long for this world. Now there's a 4th Locust, 2 from the first lance, 2 from the reinforcing lance, and I'm not really worried about those, although if they do open up with an MG, they should be able to crit seek that Vindicator relatively well. So we will be moving the Vindicator back and away from the fire on our next turn, which we have now. The Trebuchet is moving on Initiative 2, and I think our first move will be moving the Vindicator away, left side facing, although our left torso is still damaged. Left side facing, moving back, and we do have sensor lock on this mech, so we could use it to strip evasion from the Locust. I'd ideally like to fire in at that Trebuchet, but again, that's risking withering return fire, so we will risk it, playing things a little bit fast and loose with saving our mechs in order to try to end this fight a little bit faster, and we did lose the large laser, which was most of our damage. So if you take a look, this Trebuchet has only 31 structure remaining, and hopefully we're able to land at least 1 medium laser. Looks like we land 1 maybe, opening up somewhere else. Well, neither one, so we open up several other positions for internal structure, and the Blackjack can potentially, well, only those AC2s having the range. So let's take a look at the Centurion, And we do have great accuracy with the Centurion on that trebuchet. I think we will take the precision strike and just go in with a 54% chance to hit that CT on this mech. The LRMs crit seeking, destroying LRM ammunition for the trebuchet, but we're unable to get right through that CT. Only 15 structure left. We do rip off that left arm, take some of its armament out of commission, and now I think the play is move the Blackjack up, fire in the dual AC2s, and just kind of hope we get lucky. If the damage does cluster on that left torso, it will travel in to the CT, but we land one shot on something that doesn't have exposed structure, and the other does miss. So the Vindicator taking more punishing fire from that Archer, but we are lucky enough where we don't lose another arm, and that Archer has just burned itself, going way over its red line for heat, damaging its internal structure, just really wanting to take our Vindicator entirely out of the fight, and the Quick Draw, I think, will stand still. And the reason the Quick Draw is standing still is we still have 1100 armor on this. Neither one of the Locusts, which move it at Initiative 4, should be able to bore through that. And hopefully we can open up an Alpha Strike that's able to take out this Trebuchet. It's really been a bit of a thorn in our side. We do manage that, and now hopefully those two Locusts will focus on the Heavy with 0 evasion, rather than the Vindicator. Still has 0 evasion, but is farther away, and right as I say that, one of the Locusts does open fire on our Vindicator, getting at least one shot to the internal structure, although it's hard to tell now if that was on that right torso, or if they've ripped through on the left-hand side, and the other one opening up, looking like it's scattering all over the armor, so we're getting lucky, which is important to recognize. And now that Vindicator will just move, again, farther away. We do have exposed structure on that left arm, so the Vindicator will be moving, sprinting as far away as it can from this fight, getting as many evasion pips as possible, doing the same thing that our SRM Quick Draw did the previous game, just getting the heck out of dodge, I guess you could call it. And we're debating now, I guess, we could move the Blackjack back a little bit, and we don't have that great chances to hit anywhere. We do have enough resolve. We could take a precision strike. Our other option is using a sensor lock to pull off 2 of those evasion pips, but Locusts being as lightly armored as they are and having 60% chance to hit with 5 different instances of 25 damage, I think we will take that shot. We do expose several of that Locust's armor pieces. We do also rip off what looks like the right arm and right torso and expose that CT. So one of the LRM 15s is offline, and if we're able to get a good line of fire without exposing our rear on that Locust, which we're not quite able to do, I guess we'll take this. So we'll move the Centurion back and open up fire with everything on that Locust. This mech is a little bit cool. I'd like to have a bit more heat build up than that, just so we have a bit more firepower. But we are able to take that Locust out of the fight, and now all we have left is a severely overheated Archer that takes the turn to prepare its next Alpha Strike by cooling down, and the one Locust. So I think what we'll be doing, we have a couple options. The Quick Draw was completely ignored as bait, so I think the better option would be to move it up and around and kind of make this Archer get a little bit concerned for its rear arc. So we'll turn off the LRM-10 so that we're heat neutral, and we'll open up fire with those 4 medium lasers going in, drilling into that mech's right-hand side, not able to expose any structure on what is a just fantastic beginning heavy mech. And our Quick Draw now does pull the attention of the Locust. And now we have a couple of things that we can think about. If we do a precision strike on this mech, we can slow its initiative down to moving at 1, giving our Quick Draw another chance to fire. But the question is, who do we want to do that with? And I think the answer is going to be, we want to keep this Vindicator still out of the fight. So we'll move him here. And, well, so here's the question. We only have 2 evasion pips on that Locust, decent chances to hit, or we could try to really drill the right side of that Archer a little bit more, and I think that is what we'll do. We only have 2 more rounds left with the LRM-15, but we'll open up on that Archer. Its structure is damaged from overheating and will be again if it Alpha Strikes again this turn, and we'll take the precision strike with the Blackjack, which does carry a bit more firepower than the Centurion, slowing that Archer down to moving on Initiative 1, and we're firing at that right arm just to try to take its armaments off. We aren't able to land nearly enough damage there. We do expose structure, which is nice, but not enough to take that out. And now our choices are open fire on the undamaged yet vulnerable rear arc, or try to take that right arm and potentially right torso out of commission with the quick draw. And I think what we'll do, we'll move back this way, protect our rear arc from that locust, although it definitely has the movement range to move around again. And we'll open fire with the quad medium lasers and the LRM-10, really pushing that red line on this archer with the hopes of drilling through that right arm and taking off some of his armaments. So we do take off the right arm. I think most of its missiles are in the torso, if memory serves. And so it does open fire on our blackjack, probably, well, yeah, exposing some structure, but nothing too severe, and it does cool off a bit more. So I'm not surprised if we have managed to take off some of its energy weaponry, some of those medium lasers, which does make a big difference this late in the fight for preserving the integrity of our own mechs. So the blackjack, having an exposed right arm, will just kind of, well, we'll move this way and we'll left face. That way we can still fire in with everything on this archer and I guess do another precision strike, slow it down again to initiative 1, allow our quick draw to fire in yet again, and we'll take the shot on the right torso. Try to knock some of those missiles offline, and we get a head hit, but otherwise, well, rather disappointing scatter on that precision strike, opening up instead of the right torso, the left torso. Not ideal at all. And the Vindicator now, we could move it back in, that would be a little bit risky. We could also move up here, so our left arm is exposed to the structure, but I want to put a bit more fire on this archer. So high risk, high reward, 2 hits with the medium lasers, both looks like it's on that left arm. Again, less than ideal, but you know, if we have to go in and just take this mech out the hard way, then I guess that's just what we have to do. So we do have good accuracy on the locust, but the archer needs to die, because the archer with that gigantic armament there does represent most of the remaining danger to our lance. So we open fire again with the Centurion, relatively lightly armed, as Centurions go, carrying a non-standard armament, non-standard loadout. So we move up with the quick draw, and we would burn a little bit if we fired everything, so we can fire the 4 medium lasers, leave the 50% accuracy LRM-10 out of it, and we have good fire on that rear arc. So the rear arc is relatively undamaged at this point, but that's a lot of orange. 2 LRM ammo explosions, pilot injured, right torso destroyed, and that should take some of the missiles, yep, several of the missiles out of the fight. Okay, so that long distance heavy, the archer, going in as a close combat brawler, exposing some of the structure on our Centurion, and now 3 out of 4 of our mechs are relatively heavily damaged, with an LRM volley coming in on that Vindicator, which cannot afford to take any more damage on that left arm, only 12 structure remaining. So let's take a look at the Centurion. It's hard to tell what is exposed and what's not. Did that rip off? Okay, so that just destroyed our right arm in its entirety, which is just absolutely abysmal. So what we'll be doing is trying to punish this archer as quickly, well, as severely as possible. We aren't able to really find a position where we have good accuracy with those AC2s, so I'm tempted to come around to this side and just open fire into its already damaged side with everything. Go ahead and do a precision strike to knock that thing down again to only initiative 1, and I'd be really surprised, well, I guess I'm surprised, we aren't able to finish that archer off. 14 internal structure remaining. And the Centurion's going to get a little bit of payback, I think. It would be nice if we could move, but we will be just taking this swing right here, and that does core out that archer, which is unfortunate. That archer does have the most valuable, in terms of mech parts anyway, salvage from this mission, and we'll be following up now with a quick draw, pursuing that locust, I guess, to the ends of the map. So our hope is to distract with our undamaged quick draw, and we can open fire with those 4 medium lasers. Not really great hit chances, but even the one that does hit does take out that right arm. This is, again, part of the damage, part of the risk of taking such light mechs. The locust opens fire on the quick draw, which is perfect, and I would be really surprised if we aren't able to take it out completely in this round. So the Centurion, moving up for a relatively high chance to hit melee attack. 75 damage if it goes through, well, I guess 70. We are able to knock that mech on its bum, exposing it to all sorts of fire from this point out, and that locust is That Locust is, for all intents and purposes, out of the fight. So we'll open up full fire with an Alpha Strike from this Blackjack, and that is enough to pour it out. We'll be right back with the mission reward screen.
Target eliminated.
Mission successful.
So here we are, again another almost 500,000 C-bills payout, which is very nice, although we did take quite a beating for it this time around. That will be quite a lot of time in the mech bay, and I guess a bit of cost to repair all of these mechs and replace the armaments as well, losing a large laser, losing an AC-2 during this fight, which is less than ideal. But we had been looking for a rebuild on that Centurion anyway, so it's not the biggest deal ever. We will take the Archer part, and it's tempting, I guess, to take the Trebuchet part, give ourselves another medium, potentially replacing, I guess, the Centurion, which has such a non-standard armament right now that it's basically useless. The Blackjack performs the same role, except significantly better, and without the jump jets, admittedly, but we are able to also take this AC-5, potentially giving us a bit more punch with something. Now we have two AC-5s, which would be quite a bit of damage coming in all at once. So that's that. That's 2 missions completed, 1 2.5 skull contract, 1 2 skull contract down. Thank you all for coming and watching the episode, and if you like this content, please don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe. With how small the channel is, every little bit does make a very large difference, and we'll see you soon with the next episode, so stick tight.